by and large, our young men have come to workouts with a great attitude. Certainly, it's always a challenge, though, particularly with our young players, to get them to push beyond whatever mental barriers they establish for themselves. But I felt like our juniors and seniors, guys that have been in our program for the most part, really tried to push through those. And, leadership is always a concern with a new senior class, and our coaching staff has the same concerns for this senior group. With that said, though, I think we have identified some real good leaders, both by example and verbal guys that are going to, walk the walk as well. So, those are mental toughness tests at 6 in the morning. And certainly we're able to, be able to put our hands on our young men a little bit more than normally when we're out recruiting in the month of January. Yeah, Jacoby has been everything up to this point that we'd hoped he'd be. He very conscientious young man when it comes to his homework and going to school. Education is very important to him. His mother passed away about a week or two right after he came to the university. So it was really great to see a lot of our young men that had been on campus rally around him, help him get through that very difficult time, our coaching staff. But he's been a great leader in the weight room as well as the 6 a.m. workouts. And now we'll have an opportunity starting on Saturday to see where he is as far as his athletic ability and being able to execute our offense. And I'm sure it'll be a process for him. He just has to be very patient. But all the tangibles and intangibles up to this point, we've been very pleased with Jacoby Walker. Well, I think from a coaching perspective, the majority of our staff stayed intact. One of our restricted earnings coach got a full-time position within our conference, and we couldn't be more excited for him. But we do have some stability in our coaching staff for the first time in a long time. And anytime you have success, and if you have long-term success, you're going to get cherry-picked by other programs, whether it be assistants moving to coordinator positions or moving up to the FBS level, which we've seen. Or taking head coaching jobs. So I do feel a strong obligation for our assistant coaches to be able to, I was a 17-year assistant, to be upwardly mobile in this business. But I think that they're excited about being here, all of them, and certainly the message now will be very consistent from last spring that we heard in the fall to this spring. And so that consistent message and expectation level, our players now understand what we expect. And the main voice and message has been through me for 13 years and Coach Briscoe in the off-season program for 13 years. So the front and back has never changed, or it hasn't in 13 years. And not that when we have coaching transition there's mixed signals. But again, you and I can say the same thing, and sometimes it comes out a little bit differently. But to our players this spring, it'll be a consistent message that they've already heard, whether it be in teaching or expectations or academics, how we want to practice and how ultimately we want to play. Well, first of all, it starts with me and pushing myself as the head football coach. And, I have not been an auto drive, and I've pushed our assistant coaches. I took the offensive staff down to Texas Tech so that we could reinforce some of the things we do and maybe find an additional edge offensively. Our defensive staff went to Tulsa looking for that extra edge as well. And then we're pushing our players. And we've really intensified a lot of things when it comes to academic grade checks and class attendance and just making sure that our young men do not get in a comfort zone and truly do understand that to make it to the national level, it's very difficult. It doesn't just happen by chance. With that said, as we enter spring ball, leadership development, which we talked about, physical player development is very important. And who is going to emerge as go-to playmakers? Nathan Dick and Frank Newsom and Jermaine Lett and Matt Dickerson and Joe Lee Hockey. Those guys aren't Jarrell McKnight. All those guys have been very instrumental in our program for a long time. They're not coming back. And so young people in our program or backups or redshirt freshmen are going to have an opportunity to step up, and they're going to need to step up because those were major playmakers and excellent leaders for us on and off the field. So it is my favorite time, but there's always a lot of questions that have to be answered going through the off-season program, all the way through spring ball, through the summer, until ultimately we get to camp, and then we've got to start narrowing things down as far as who we're going to get ready to play. But leadership is very important. Team chemistry is very important. Obviously, academic progress. All these things factor in so that our team doesn't get complacent. And so we've really pushed them hard, really pushed the coaches hard, so that we can professionally develop. There's different ways to skin a cat, and so we're looking at making sure that we're doing the right things. And if there's new and innovative ideas out there, we certainly want to try to be on the cusp and on the cutting edge of that. Well, I think Brett Soft is one, a rising senior. Brett made some big plays for us, but of course he played behind Isaiah Jackson, a 4-year, senior, 3-year starter for us. But I really think Brett's had an outstanding offseason. He's 6'4", 210 pounds. He's much more athletic. He's stronger. Again, speed of the game. He's caught up to it. He understands what we want. I think he's a young man that'll stick out for us. I've got high hopes on defense. For Parker Carpenter. Parker was our long snapper and short snapper the first half of the season. And then Kirby O'Meara came back from an injury and really didn't play a whole lot down the stretch. But he's gotten bigger and stronger. He's 6'4", 260 pounds. He's still a true freshman. And, I think that he's got a chance to have an impact along the defensive line along with T.J. Randall. Both of these young men are lettermen, and I really think that they're going to step up. And then 2 redshirt freshmen I want us to keep an eye on here. Jonathan Woodard, he's 6'6", 250 pounds. When we signed him, he was 220. Very strong. He ran right around 4.68, 4.7 in the 40 this week. And he's got a chance as a defensive end to come in and maybe fill some of that role that Jermaine Lett had. And then anxious to see Blake Gardner, redshirt freshman out of Steele High School in San Antonio. 5'11", 174, 75-pounder, excellent athlete, and we need some depth there at the slot receiver position. So, that's 3 redshirt freshmen and then 2 young men that played last year, Carpenter and Randall, that I think those 5 guys need to really step up either as backups or compete for starting frontline jobs. And there's a host of other players across the board. The key is to make sure that your upperclassmen continue to improve. The guys that are freshmen and sophomores that may have some experience step up to fill that vacuum of graduation as well. And then all those redshirt freshmen, your non-scholarship players, they're going to be given a lot of opportunity over 15 practices to really step up. But those are 5 or 6 key guys, and there are many more. But I'm anxious to get on the field to see, what they've retained, what they've learned. Certainly Wes Foster just getting here in January, a true freshman, very skilled athlete, and he'll have plenty of opportunities on offense to get in space and do some things. So I'm really anxious to get out there with all of them. Well, number one, we need to stay healthy. I mean, that's the coach across the country. We all want to be healthy when we're finished. What we try to do, number one focus is player development. We've talked about that, but then you'd like to leave having a very good idea of where your 2 deep is on both sides of the football, your return men, who the 5th corner is going to be, who that 5th and 6th defensive tackle, your top 7 or 8 offensive linemen, but really and truly you want that 2 deep to be established. That's not saying that there's not upward or downward movement later, but you want to feel good about the guys that you've got listed as a starter and a guy listed as a backup coming out of spring going into the summer. And so those are things as coaches that we're trying to establish, and actually the players are going to establish that. We're just going to facilitate the opportunities, and that's the kind of a misnomer in our business that the coaches decide who plays and who doesn't play. It's the athlete. If he's underperforming in the classroom, then he's going to get knocked down the depth chart. If he's performing very well on the field, and then he's going to move to the top, and then obviously he can, if he has a few bad days or a bad scrimmage, he can move back down. So this is a real fluid time in that depth chart establishment, but you'd like to leave having a depth chart with 2 deep plus, and then have your specialists and return people identified. But the bottom line is you want to stay healthy. Our spring game is April 13th, 6:30 over at First Security Field at Estes Stadium, and I think it's a great opportunity for us to kind of wrap spring up, have some fun with the game, obviously get everybody involved. The major scrimmages prior to that are kind of the work days. It's kind of a showcase day. But right after that, we transition right into spring recruiting. We've already started to identify in-state, rising seniors that are juniors now. Will be out across the state watching spring practices, and certainly out of state as well. We've got our mass mailing list going, and our recruiting information that we subscribe to. But the week after spring practice is over, we'll come in and do all of our post-practice evaluations, meet with our players, see where we are academically, and then take that week as well to start watching junior film. And then we'll hit the road primarily for the entire month of May. And it's a great time for us because the semester is over. Our players are usually back home in their hometowns with their parents, and we can move around the state and out of state as well, identifying the top prospects and building a pool of names and talent that we'll use heading into the fall. Another thing that's become very important to us, and we really started to see the benefits of it this year, is our summer camps. We're going to have 2 junior-senior camps here on campus, here at the university during the summer, one in June and one in July, and they've been very successful. And of course, we want those players to leave learning something as well. But this year, we're going to also expand our junior-senior camp up to Northwest Arkansas. We're going to do one at Springdale Harbor High School, I think the first or second week of June. And you can go to ucasports.com, click on the Clint Conque football camps and get all the information there. But the summer camps have become very, very important as far as that spring evaluation, summer evaluation, and getting that list of 600 or 700 players and then ultimately getting it down to 25 or 30 by the end of the process in 2013.